The night everything shattered. The champagne glass slipped from Olivia's trembling fingers, shattering against the marble floor in 1,000 glittering pieces, just like her heart. Through the crack in the bedroom door, she watched her fiancé Marcus pressed against her best friend Sarah. Their bodies intertwined in a kiss that spoke of practiced familiarity, of countless stolen moments, of a betrayal so deep it threatened to swallow her whole. The engagement ring on her finger, the one Marcus had placed there just 3 months ago at the charity gala in front of 500 witnesses, suddenly felt like a noose tightening around her soul. God, I can't wait until we're finally free of her. Sarah's voice drifted through the doorway, breathless and cruel. How much longer do we have to keep up this charade? Marcus's laugh was cold, unfamiliar. Just until after the wedding. Once I have access to her trust fund and the company shares her father left her, we can be together openly. 6 more weeks, baby. That's all. Olivia's knees buckled. She caught herself against the hallway wall, her breath coming in silent, desperate gasps. 6 weeks. They'd planned this. All of it. Every tender moment, every whispered promise, every time Marcus had looked into her eyes and told her she was his forever. It had all been a calculated lie. The girl who had everything. 3 years ago, Olivia Chun had been America's sweetheart, the 25-year-old tech heiress who'd inherited her father's revolutionary AI company after his sudden death. Beautiful, brilliant, and worth over $2 billion, she graced magazine covers and inspired countless young women in STEM fields. But beneath the polished exterior lived a lonely girl who'd lost her only parent and craved genuine connection, in a world where everyone wanted something from her. Then Marcus Sterling had walked into her life at a technology conference in San Francisco. Charming, ambitious, with warm brown eyes that seemed to see past her money to the real woman underneath. He'd been a rising star in venture capital, impressive in his own right. For the first time since her father's death, Olivia had felt seen, valued for more than her bank account. Or so she'd thought. The web of deception. Olivia moved silently down the hallway, her designer heels abandoned, her silk dress whispering against her legs as she retreated to the guest room. Her mind raced through the past 3 years, re-examining every moment through this new devastating lens. Sarah had introduced them. Sarah, her college roommate, her maid of honor, the woman she trusted with her deepest secrets and darkest fears. How long had they been planning this? The question burned through her consciousness like acid. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and opened her banking app. The joint account she'd opened with Marcus last month, the one he'd suggested for wedding expenses, showed a balance of $37. She'd deposited $50,000 just 2 weeks ago. Her father's voice echoed from memory. Livy, in business and in life, trust is a luxury. Verify everything. She dismissed his cynicism as the paranoia of a man who'd spent too long in the cutthroat world of Silicon Valley. Now his wisdom felt like a lifeline thrown across the years. Olivia opened her laptop and began to dig. What she discovered in the next hour would have brought a weaker woman to her knees. Marcus had taken out credit cards in her name, forged her signature on documents transferring shares of her company to a shell corporation. Sarah had been systematically isolating her from her few remaining friends, orchestrating small conflicts and misunderstandings that left Olivia increasingly dependent on the 2 people who were destroying her. The breaking point. The bedroom door opened. Olivia looked up from her laptop to find Marcus standing in the doorway, his shirt hastily buttoned, his expression shifting from surprise to carefully constructed concern. Liv? What are you doing home? I thought you were in Seattle until tomorrow. She studied his face, the face she'd kissed goodnight 1,000 times, the face she'd imagined growing old beside. How had she never noticed the coldness in those brown eyes? The calculation behind every smile? My meeting ended early. Her voice was remarkably steady. I wanted to surprise you. Well, you certainly did that. He moved closer, and she caught a whiff of Sarah's perfume on his skin. The audacity of it, the sheer brazen confidence that she would never discover their betrayal, made something snap inside her chest. We need to talk about the wedding, Olivia said, closing her laptop with deliberate care. I've been thinking we should move it up. Why wait 6 more weeks when we could do it next weekend? For just a fraction of a second, panic flashed across Marcus's features. Then his mask slipped back into place. That's sudden. Don't you want your dream wedding? The venue, the planning. I want to be your wife. She forced herself to meet his eyes, to inject warmth into her voice even as her heart turned to ice. Unless there's some reason you'd rather wait? The game begins. Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course not, darling. If that's what you want, we'll make it happen. He moved to kiss her, but she turned her head at the last moment, his lips grazing her cheek instead. I'm exhausted, she murmured. Long flight. I think I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. I don't want to disturb you with my tossing and turning. After he left, Olivia sat in the darkness, her mind working with a clarity she'd never experienced before. The old Olivia, trusting, romantic, eager to see the best in everyone, had died tonight. In her place rose someone harder. Someone who understood that in this world, you either played the game or got played. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she'd thought she'd never use again. It rang 3 times before a gravel-voiced man answered. Olivia Chun. I didn't expect to hear from you again. Hello, Detective Morrison. She kept her voice low. Remember when you told me that if I ever needed help, real help, I should call you? I'm calling in that favor. What do you need? Everything. I need to know every lie, every theft, every scheme. And I need it documented in a way that will hold up in court. There was a pause. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Once you start pulling threads. I'm already at the bottom, detective. The only direction left is up. Olivia's reflection stared back at her from the darkened window. A woman transformed by betrayal into something fierce and unbreakable. And I'm taking them down with me. The trap is set. Over the next 2 weeks, Olivia became a woman possessed. By day, she played the role of the blissfully ignorant bride-to-be, discussing flower arrangements with Sarah and venue options with Marcus. By night, she worked with Detective Morrison and her father's old attorney to build an ironclad case. The paper trail was extensive. Marcus had been siphoning money from her accounts for over a year. He'd convinced her to sign a prenuptial agreement that was so weighted in his favor it was practically criminal, except that her signature had been forged on the final version filed with the court. Sarah had been receiving monthly payments from Marcus's offshore account, compensation for her role in the deception. But the worst discovery came from Marcus's email account, which Detective Morrison's team had managed to access. There were others. 3 other women in the past 5 years, all wealthy, all isolated, all systematically drained of their assets before Marcus disappeared. One had committed suicide. Another had suffered a complete mental breakdown and was now in a long-term care facility. Olivia had been his biggest target yet, and she'd almost walked right into his trap. The unexpected ally. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, Olivia sat in a coffee shop in Brooklyn, waiting for a meeting that could change everything. The man who walked through the door was tall, dark-haired, with sharp green eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of his surroundings. Dante Moretti, the name Detective Morrison had given her, along with a warning. He's not exactly on the right side of the law, but he's honest in his own way. And he has resources we don't. Miss Chun. Dante's voice was smooth as aged whiskey. I understand you have a problem that requires a creative solution. I have 2 problems, Olivia corrected, studying him carefully. 2 people who've made the mistake of thinking I'm weak. That I'm just some rich girl who'll roll over and let them destroy me. A smile played at the corners of Dante's mouth. And what exactly are you proposing? I want them to hurt the way they've hurt me. I want them to lose everything, their money, their reputation, their freedom. And I want them to know it was me who orchestrated their downfall. Olivia leaned forward, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Can you help me do that? Dante was silent for a long moment, his green eyes searching her face. Revenge is a dangerous game, Miss Chun. Are you prepared for what it will cost you? I've already paid the price, she replied. Now I'm here to collect. The first move. That night, Olivia hosted a dinner party at her penthouse. Marcus and Sarah were there, of course, playing their roles perfectly. But scattered among the guests were Dante's associates, people whose faces Marcus would recognize too late as belonging to his criminal past, to deals gone wrong, to secrets he'd thought were buried forever. Olivia watched as Marcus's confidence slowly crumbled throughout the evening. The way his hand trembled when Antonio Russo, A man Marcus had once cheated out of $2 million, raised a glass in his direction. The way sweat beaded on his forehead when Victoria Lang, whose sister was still in that psychiatric facility, asked sweetly about his previous relationships. And Sarah, beautiful treacherous Sarah, was being cornered by Elena Martinez, a woman whose specialty was uncovering secrets. Olivia could see the panic building in her former best friend's eyes as Elena casually mentioned knowing about the offshore accounts, the forged documents, the entire conspiracy. "Darling, are you all right?" Olivia touched Marcus's arm, her voice dripping with false concern. "You look pale." "I'm fine," he managed, but his eyes were darting around the room like a trapped animal seeking escape. "Good." She smiled, but there was steel in her voice that only he could hear. "Because the real party is just beginning. The revelation." As the last guests departed, Olivia poured 3 glasses of wine. Marcus and Sarah exchanged nervous glances but accepted the drinks, perhaps hoping that maintaining the charade would somehow save them. "I want to propose a toast," Olivia said, raising her glass. "To love. To loyalty. To the bonds that tie us together." She paused, her smile turning razor-sharp. "And to the lies that are about to destroy you both." Sarah's wine glass shattered against the floor. "Live what? Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Olivia's voice was calm, almost conversational. "That I wouldn't hear you that night? That I wouldn't discover every transaction, every forged signature, every cruel calculation." Marcus lunged for the door, but it was locked. Dante stepped from the shadows, blocking the exit. "Going somewhere?" "Here's what's going to happen," Olivia continued, her composure absolute. "Tomorrow morning, federal agents will arrive at your apartment, Marcus. They'll find evidence of wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes. They'll also find something more interesting: evidence connecting you to the disappearance of Jennifer Hartley's trust fund 3 years ago." "You can't prove any of this," Marcus snarled, his mask finally cracking completely. "Actually, I can. Detective Morrison has been very thorough." Olivia turned to Sarah. "And you, my dear friend, did you know that accessory to fraud carries a sentence of up to 20 years? That's a long time to think about what you've done." Sarah was crying now, mascara streaming down her face. "Liv, please. We can explain." "Explain what? That you were willing to destroy me for money? That you never actually cared about me at all?" Olivia's voice finally cracked, years of hurt and betrayal bleeding through her controlled exterior. "You were my best friend, Sarah. I trusted you with everything. The ultimate choice." "I'm giving you both a choice," Olivia said, her composure returning like armor sliding back into place. "Option 1. The evidence goes to the authorities tomorrow. You face criminal charges, prison time, and the complete destruction of your reputations. Option 2. She paused, letting the silence stretch until it was unbearable. "Option 2 is you work for me. You give me everything. Every asset, every account, every secret. You become my weapons in a game much larger than your petty scheme. There are others out there like you, other predators targeting vulnerable people. You're going to help me stop them." Marcus laughed bitterly. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life." Olivia's eyes were cold as winter steel. "You wanted access to my resources? You're about to get it, just not in the way you imagined. You'll be my hunters, tracking down people like yourselves. And every person you help save, every scheme you unravel, maybe, just maybe, it'll chip away at the debt you owe to all the people you've destroyed." "And if we refuse?" Sarah whispered. Olivia smiled, but it was a smile that promised retribution. "Then I'll make sure that prison is the least of your worries. You see, those people you met tonight? They're not just witnesses. They're people Marcus has wronged, and they're very interested in delivering their own form of justice. Dante here has promised to keep them at bay, as long as you cooperate." The dawn of war. Marcus and Sarah left that night, their faces ashen, their futures in Olivia's hands. As the door closed behind them, Olivia's legs finally gave out. She sank to the floor, the adrenaline that had sustained her through the confrontation draining away, leaving her hollow and aching. Dante crouched beside her, offering a hand. "Not many people could have done what you just did." "I'm not sure what I've done," Olivia admitted, accepting his help. I just know that I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let them destroy me and move on to their next victim. You've started a war, Dante said simply. And wars change people. Are you ready for who you might become? Olivia thought of her father, of the empire he'd built through brilliance and ruthlessness, of the lessons he'd tried to teach her about the real world, lessons she'd been too naive to understand. She thought of the woman who'd trusted blindly, who'd believed in fairy tale endings. That woman was gone. I'm ready, she said, her voice steady. Because the girl they tried to destroy? She's dead. And what rises from those ashes will burn anyone who tries to hurt me again. But as Dante left and Olivia stood alone in her penthouse, staring out at the glittering Manhattan skyline, a new question haunted her. In seeking revenge, in becoming the predator instead of the prey, what part of her soul was she sacrificing? And more terrifyingly, did she even care anymore? The answer, she would discover, was far more complicated than she could ever imagine. To be continued. SEO optimized titles. Main title. She caught her fiancé cheating with her best friend. Her revenge changed everything. Alternative titles. Billionaire heiress discovers fiancé's dark secret. What she did next shocked everyone. He wanted her fortune. She destroyed his life. The ultimate revenge story. Betrayed by her fiancé and best friend. This woman's payback was ruthless. End of part 1. Asterisk, the story continues with part 2, where Olivia navigates her new role as someone who controls Marcus and Sarah, while Dante's involvement becomes more complex. Romance begins to develop between Olivia and Dante, even as she struggles with the moral implications of her revenge. New mysteries emerge about her father's death, suggesting Marcus's scheme may be connected to something much larger and more dangerous. Part 2 and 311:00 Part 2. Heartbreak and Revenge. The Price of Power. 3 months after the confrontation, Olivia Chan sat in her corner office on the 42nd floor, watching Marcus Sterling grovel before a terrified hedge fund manager who'd been targeting elderly investors. The irony wasn't lost on her. The predator had become the hunter, and she held his leash. But victory tasted like ash in her mouth, hollow and bitter. Nothing like the satisfaction she'd imagined. Please, you have to understand, the hedge fund manager, Richard Castellano, pleaded, his expensive suit rumpled, his face slick with sweat. I have a family. Kids in college. If this goes public. You should have thought of that before you stole $12 million from retirees, Marcus interrupted, his voice cold and mechanical. He'd become efficient at this work, frighteningly so. Perhaps because he understood the criminal mind so intimately, it was, after all, his own. Olivia pressed the intercom. That's enough. Send him the settlement terms. As Castellano stumbled out, properly terrified and considerably poorer, Olivia caught her reflection in the glass. The woman staring back was polished, powerful, untouchable. She barely recognized herself. Her father would have been proud. The thought made her chest ache with the pain she'd learned to ignore. The stranger in the shadows. You're getting good at this. Dante's voice came from the doorway, startling her despite herself. He had a way of appearing silently, like smoke materializing from thin air. In the 3 months since their partnership began, he'd become an unsettling constant in her life. Provider of information, enforcer of consequences, and something she refused to name. Am I supposed to celebrate that? Olivia turned from the window, her tone sharper than intended. Dante stepped into her office and she was struck as always by the way he moved, predatory grace wrapped in an expensive suit. His green eyes, impossibly dark in the afternoon light, studied her with an intensity that made her feel exposed. You're supposed to accept it, he said quietly. You chose this path, Olivia. You can't walk through fire and expect not to get burned. Spare me the philosophy. She moved to her desk, kneading the barrier between them. Dante had a way of getting too close, of seeing too much. I assume you're here about the Anderson case? Among other things. He produced a manila folder, setting it on her desk with deliberate care. Your instincts were correct. James Anderson isn't just embezzling from his company. He's laundering money for some very dangerous people. People who won't appreciate our interference. Olivia opened the folder, Her trained eye scanning financial records, surveillance photos, encrypted communications. Her chest tightened. The Volkov organization. You recognize the name. My father did business in Eastern Europe. He warned me about them, said they were the one group he'd never cross. She looked up, finding Dante's gaze already on her. You want me to back off. I want you to understand what you're walking into. Dante leaned against her desk, close enough that she caught his scent. Sandalwood and something darker, dangerous. The Volkovs don't play by rules. They don't respond to legal pressure or financial manipulation. They respond to violence. Then we'll give them violence. Olivia heard the words leave her mouth and wondered when she'd become someone who could say such things without flinching. Something flickered in Dante's expression. Approval? Concern? You're not ready for that world. Then make me ready. The challenge hung between them, electric and dangerous. Isn't that what you do, Dante? Turn naive heiresses into something harder? Something capable of surviving? Is that what you think I'm doing? His voice dropped lower, intimate in a way that made her pulse quicken. Making you harder? Aren't you? Dante reached out, his fingers brushing her jaw with unexpected gentleness. The touch sent heat spiraling through her, unwanted and undeniable. What I'm doing is watching you destroy yourself piece by piece, in pursuit of revenge that will never satisfy you, and wondering when you'll realize that the cost is too high. Olivia jerked back from his touch, from the truth in his words. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Dante's smile was sad, knowing. I've walked this path, Olivia. I know exactly where it leads. Sarah's confession. That evening, Olivia found Sarah waiting in her penthouse lobby. Her former best friend looked gaunt, shadows under her eyes speaking of sleepless nights and guilty conscience. For a moment, Olivia felt a flash of the old affection, sisterhood forged in college dorm rooms and whispered secrets. Then she remembered Sarah's voice through the bedroom door. How much longer do we have to keep up this charade? The affection died. We need to talk, Sarah said, her voice hoarse. Please, Liv. Just 5 minutes. Against her better judgment, Olivia nodded. They rode the elevator in silence, the air thick with everything unsaid. In the penthouse, Sarah gravitated to the window, the same window where they'd once stood together, planning futures that would never come to pass. I'm pregnant, Sarah said abruptly. The words hit Olivia like a physical blow. Marcus. Who else? Sarah's laugh was bitter, brittle. Ironic, isn't it? I helped him plot to steal your life, and now I'm trapped in the wreckage of that plan forever. Olivia moved to the bar, pouring herself whiskey with hands that trembled slightly. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm terrified. Sarah turned, tears streaming down her face. Real tears, not the calculated kind. I'm terrified of bringing a child into this world as the daughter of 2 criminals. I'm terrified that you'll use this baby as leverage against me. I'm terrified that I've become someone I don't recognize, and I don't know how to find my way back. You should be terrified, Olivia said coldly. But even as the words left her mouth, she felt something crack inside her. This was what revenge had made her. Someone who could look at a pregnant woman and feel nothing but satisfaction at her fear. Was this who she wanted to be? I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, Sarah continued, her voice breaking. I know what we did was unforgivable. But this baby, Liv, this baby is innocent. Please. I'm begging you. Whatever punishment you have planned for me, don't let it touch my child. Olivia stared at the woman who'd been her sister in everything but blood. She thought of all the ways she could hurt Sarah now, all the leverage this pregnancy provided. She thought of the cold, calculating woman she'd become, the woman who'd turned Marcus into her attack dog, who destroyed lives without hesitation, who'd partnered with a criminal to wage war against other criminals. Get out, Olivia whispered. What? Get out. Louder now, her voice cracking. Get out before I do something we'll both regret. Before I become someone I can never come back from. Sarah fled, and Olivia collapsed onto her couch, the whiskey glass slipping from her fingers. She didn't move to clean it up. Didn't move at all. Just sat in the growing darkness, wondering when revenge had stopped feeling like justice and started feeling like self-destruction. Her phone buzzed. A message from Dante: we need to meet. I found something about your father. The hidden truth. They met at midnight in a warehouse Dante owned in Red Hook, neutral territory he'd called it, though Olivia suspected nowhere was truly neutral in his world. He was waiting for her among shadows and shipping containers, a laptop open on a makeshift desk. "Before I show you this," Dante said carefully, "you need to understand that some truths change everything. Once you know, you can't unknow." "Show me." Dante pulled up a video file. The timestamp showed a date from 4 years ago, 6 months before her father's death. The footage was grainy, clearly from a hidden camera, but she recognized her father immediately. He was in a restaurant, meeting with a man whose face made her blood run cold. Viktor Volkov. "What is this?" Olivia breathed. "Your father wasn't just doing business in Eastern Europe, Olivia. He was working with the Volkovs. His AI technology, the revolutionary algorithms that made his company billions, they were partially funded by Volkov money. Money that needed to be laundered, legitimized." "No." The word came out strangled. "My father would never." "Watch." Dante advanced the video. She watched as her father and Viktor Volkov shook hands. Watched as documents changed hands. Watched as her father, the man who'd raised her to value integrity above all else, sold his soul to criminals. "There's more," Dante said quietly. He pulled up another file. 3 months before your father died, he tried to end the partnership. The Volkovs don't accept endings. They sent someone to persuade him to reconsider. The next video showed her father being beaten in an alley. Olivia turned away, bile rising in her throat. "His death wasn't a heart attack," Dante continued, relentless in his truth-telling. "It was manufactured. The Volkovs have people everywhere, doctors, medical examiners, police. They made it look natural. Why are you telling me this?" Olivia's voice was raw with unshed tears. "Because Marcus Sterling was working for the Volkovs. His entire scheme, getting close to you, stealing your money, gaining control of your company, it was all orchestrated by them. They want what your father built. And they're willing to destroy you to get it." The revelation crashed over Olivia like a tidal wave. Everything she thought she knew, about her father, about Marcus's betrayal, about her own revenge, had been built on lies. She wasn't fighting her own battle. She was a pawn in a war that had claimed her father's life. "Marcus doesn't know," Dante added. "He thinks he's working independently. But the money funding his schemes, the information he's been given about you, it all traces back to Volkov." Olivia looked at Dante, really looked at him, seeing him clearly for the first time. "And you? Where do you fit in this chess game?" "Your father and I were friends," Dante said simply. "Not many people knew. We met in Moscow years ago, bonded over chess and vodka. When he realized the Volkovs were closing in, he asked me to watch over you if anything happened to him. I've been doing that in my own way. By letting me walk into danger? By helping me become someone capable of violence. By preparing you for the war that was coming whether you wanted it or not." Dante moved closer. And this time Olivia didn't retreat. "Your father knew you were strong, Olivia. He knew that if the Volkovs came for you, you'd need to be more than just a brilliant businesswoman. You'd need to be a warrior." "I don't want to be a warrior," Olivia whispered. "I just wanted my life back. That life is gone." Dante's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't known she'd shed. "But you can build something new. Something stronger. We can build it together." The kiss happened like an explosion, sudden, devastating, inevitable. Olivia poured all her rage and grief and desperate longing into it, and Dante met her with equal intensity. His hands tangled in her hair, her fingers digging into his shoulders, both of them seeking something: comfort, connection, proof that they were still human beneath the armor they'd built. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates things." "Everything's already complicated," Olivia murmured. But her mind was clearing, pieces falling into place. "Marcus is the key. If he's working for the Volkovs without knowing it, we can use him. Feed him false information. Make him think he's succeeding, while we dismantle their operation from the inside." Dante pulled back, studying her face. "You understand what that means? We'll be going to war with one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. They killed my father. They've been manipulating my life for years. They sent Marcus to destroy me. Olivia's voice hardened with resolve. I'm already at war. I just didn't know who the real enemy was. The double cross. The plan came together over the next 2 weeks. Marcus, still believing he was working independently, was fed carefully crafted intelligence about a supposedly vulnerable tech company that the Volkovs wanted to acquire. He thought he was positioning himself for his biggest score yet. He didn't know he was walking into a trap. But as Olivia watched the pieces move into place, Sarah's words haunted her. I'm terrified that I've become someone I don't recognize, and I don't know how to find my way back. Late one night, working in her office, Olivia felt Dante's presence before she saw him. He materialized from the shadows like he always did, but this time he brought coffee, a small gesture that spoke of domesticity, of care. You're having second thoughts, he observed, setting the cup on her desk. How do you know? Because you're not a sociopath, despite your best efforts to become one. Dante settled into the chair across from her. The fact that you're questioning yourself is proof you haven't lost your humanity. My humanity is a liability in this world. Your humanity is what makes you different from them. Dante leaned forward, his green eyes intense. Olivia, there's something I need to tell you. About why I really agreed to help you. I'm listening. When your father asked me to watch over you, I promised I would. But I also promised myself that I'd never let you become what I am. I've done terrible things in my life, things I can never take back. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, chosen revenge over redemption more times than I can count. His voice dropped. I don't want that for you. Even if it means losing this war. What are you saying? I'm saying there's another way. We can still expose the Volkovs, still get justice for your father. But we don't have to become monsters to do it. We can choose to be better than the people who hurt us. Olivia wanted to argue, to insist that mercy was weakness. But looking at Dante, seeing the regret etched in every line of his face, the weight of old sins bowing his shoulders, she glimpsed her own future. A future where victories felt like defeats, where revenge ate away at everything good inside her until only emptiness remained. Show me the other way, she whispered. The betrayal within. What they didn't know was that Marcus had begun to suspect something was wrong. The intelligence he was receiving was too perfect, too convenient. And Marcus Sterling hadn't survived this long by being stupid. He'd started his own investigation. Had discovered Dante's connection to Olivia's father. Had begun to piece together that he was being manipulated. And in his desperation, Marcus made the most dangerous decision of his life. He decided to meet with Viktor Volkov directly. The meeting took place in a private room at an exclusive restaurant in Brighton Beach. Marcus sat across from a man who radiated cold menace, whose pale eyes held no warmth, no mercy. You failed me, Mr. Sterling, Viktor said in accented English. The Chun woman was supposed to be neutralized. Instead, she's become a problem. I can fix this, Marcus insisted, his confidence crumbling under Viktor's gaze. I just need more time. Time is one thing you don't have. Viktor's smile was knife-sharp. But perhaps we can come to an arrangement. You have access to Miss Chun. Access I've found increasingly difficult to obtain, thanks to her new association with Dante Moretti. Marcus leaned forward, seeing opportunity in the midst of disaster. What do you want me to do? I want you to bring her to me. And in exchange I'll let you live. Perhaps even let you keep a fraction of what you've stolen. Viktor's eyes glittered. But if you fail again, Mr. Sterling, I'll make sure your death is neither quick nor painless. Marcus left the restaurant with instructions and a deadline. He had 1 week to deliver Olivia Chun to the Volkovs. As he walked through the cold Brooklyn night, he pulled out his phone and stared at Sarah's contact information. There was still a part of him, small, dying but present, that remembered loving her. That remembered the person he'd been before greed had consumed him. He thought about the baby she was carrying. His child. A chance at redemption he didn't deserve. He could warn them. Could tell Olivia and Dante that the Volkovs knew about their plan. That Viktor was expecting Marcus to betray them. It would mean his own death, certainly. But maybe, just maybe, it would buy his child a chance at a better life than he'd been able to give them. Marcus stood on the street corner, phone in hand, faced with the first truly selfless decision of his adult life. The revelation. Olivia was in her penthouse with Dante, reviewing their final plans when her phone rang. Marcus's name lit up the screen. She almost didn't answer, but something made her accept the call. Olivia. Marcus's voice was strained. I need to tell you something. I need to make one thing right before it's too late. What are you talking about? The Volkovs know. They know about Dante, about your plan. Victor is expecting me to deliver you to him in 3 days. Words tumbled out in a desperate rush. I'm sorry. For everything. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I needed to say it. I needed you to know that I chose this, warning you, over saving myself. The call ended abruptly. Olivia looked at Dante, whose face had gone carefully blank. It's a trap, she said. Probably. But Dante's tone suggested he wasn't entirely certain. Or it's a man trying to protect his unborn child from his own sins. They stared at each other, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on them both. What do we do? Olivia asked. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then, we trust him. We change our plan, assume Victor knows everything, and we spring our trap early. But we also give Marcus a chance at redemption. Because if we don't believe people can change, then what are we fighting for? Olivia thought about Sarah, about the baby that would be born into this mess. She thought about her father, who'd made terrible choices but had tried in the end to protect her. She thought about herself, about the woman she'd been and the woman she was becoming. Okay, she said quietly. We give him a chance. But as Dante pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that they were all pieces on a chessboard, and the Volkovs were masters at this game. Redemption was a beautiful idea. She just hoped it wouldn't get them all killed. The real war was about to begin, and this time there would be no second chances. To be continued. Part 3: The Ultimate Payback. The Gathering Storm. The abandoned warehouse in Red Hook had become their war room. Olivia stood before a wall covered in photographs, documents, and red string connecting the Volkovs' empire. Money laundering operations, legitimate businesses used as fronts, political connections that ran deeper than she'd imagined. Somewhere in this web was her father's death, Marcus's manipulation, and the key to ending Viktor Volkov's reach. This is insane, Marcus muttered from his corner, where he sat under the watchful eye of 2 of Dante's associates. 3 days had passed since his warning call. 3 days of tense planning, of learning to work alongside the man who tried to destroy her. We're talking about taking down an organization that's been operating for 30 years. With what? Good intentions and anger. With something they don't have, Olivia replied, not turning from the wall. We have nothing left to lose. Speak for yourself. I have a daughter on the way. Marcus's voice cracked on the word daughter. Sarah had the ultrasound yesterday. A girl. She's naming her Grace. The name hit Olivia unexpectedly. Grace. Her mother's name. Her mother, who died when Olivia was 7, leaving her with only fading memories and her father's stories. Sarah knew this. Even after everything, Sarah had chosen to honor that memory. Olivia turned to face Marcus properly for the first time in days. He looked haggard, defeated. Nothing like the confident manipulator who'd proposed to her on a yacht surrounded by champagne and roses. Tell me the truth. Did you ever feel anything real for me? Even for a moment? Marcus closed his eyes. In the beginning, no. You were a mark. The biggest score of my life. But somewhere around month 6, when you stayed up all night with me when I had food poisoning, when you read terrible poetry you'd written in college, when you cried watching that stupid dog movie. He opened his eyes and they were wet. For about 3 weeks I forgot it was a con. And that scared me more than anything, so I pushed harder into the lie. Made myself remember you were just money. Because if you were more than that, what did that make me? A man who chose wrong, Dante said, entering the warehouse with fresh intelligence reports. But maybe not one who's beyond redemption. He dropped the folders on the table. Victor's making his move. He's called a meeting of all his major players in New York. Legitimate businessmen he's got by the throat, politicians on his payroll, the works. It's happening in 4 days at his estate in the Hamptons. He's consolidating power, Olivia said, understanding immediately. He knows we're coming. He's gathering his army. And showing us exactly where to strike. Dante's smile was sharp as broken glass. He's arrogant. Thinks we wouldn't dare attack him on his home territory, surrounded by his people. Would we? Marcus asked. Olivia looked at Dante and something passed between them. Understanding, trust, and something deeper that had been growing in the darkness of their shared crusade. Yes, we absolutely would. The impossible alliance. Over the next 72 hours, the most unlikely coalition formed in that Red Hook warehouse. Dante brought his network, criminals with codes of honor, people who owed him favors, those who'd been wronged by the Volkovs and wanted revenge of their own. Marcus, proving his commitment to redemption, opened his files on every con, every dirty secret he'd accumulated over years of operating in the criminal underworld. But the most surprising ally walked through the door on the second day. Detective Morrison, the man Olivia had first contacted months ago. I should arrest half the people in this room, Morrison said, surveying the assembled group with weary eyes. But the Volkovs have been operating with impunity for too long. They own cops, judges, prosecutors. The system can't touch them. Maybe you can. You're risking your career, Olivia pointed out. I'm risking more than that. But your father was a good man who got in over his head trying to do the right thing. I owe it to his memory to help you finish what he started. Morrison spread out his own files. Official police documentation of crimes the Volkovs had committed but never been charged with. You want to take them down? Let's take them down properly. No unnecessary bloodshed. No turning into the very monsters we're fighting. His words echoed what Dante had said weeks ago. The conversation that had changed Olivia's path from pure revenge to something more complex. Justice. Real justice, not the hollow satisfaction of destruction. Sarah arrived on the third day, her pregnancy just starting to show. She didn't speak to Olivia directly, but she brought something precious. Evidence. Documents her family had kept secret for years. Her uncle worked as an accountant for one of the Volkov shell corporations. He'd been documenting everything, building a case but too terrified to go public. He's dying, Sarah said quietly. Cancer. He said if there was ever going to be a reckoning, now was the time. He has nothing left to fear. The pieces were falling into place. But Olivia knew this was the calm before the storm, and storms in this world were measured in blood and bullets. The night before, evening before the assault, Olivia found herself alone on the warehouse roof with Dante. The city stretched before them, lights glittering like stars fallen to earth. She thought about her father, about how he'd loved this view. Had he stood somewhere like this, knowing he was going to his death and found peace? You're thinking too much, Dante said softly, appearing beside her as he always did, silent, sudden, necessary. I'm thinking about tomorrow. About all the ways this could go wrong. About what happens if we fail. Then we fail together. Dante took her hand, his fingers warm against her cold skin. But we won't fail. Because we're fighting for something real. They're fighting to maintain an empire built on suffering. That kind of foundation always crumbles eventually. You sound certain. I'm not. His smile was sad. But I've learned that sometimes certainty is less important than commitment. And I am absolutely committed to seeing you through this alive. Olivia turned to face him fully. What happens after? Assuming we survive, assuming we win, what then? What do you want to happen? It was a question she'd been avoiding. In the months since her world had collapsed, she'd been driven by revenge, by the need to hurt those who'd hurt her. But revenge had revealed itself as a hollow goal, a poison that would have destroyed her from the inside. What did she actually want? I want to rebuild, Olivia said slowly, the truth emerging as she spoke it. Not just my company but something better. My father's technology, the AI systems he developed, they could do incredible good if they weren't being used to launder money. I want to take that power and use it to help people. Real people, not just other billionaires. That's a worthy goal. And I want you in my life. The words came out rushed, vulnerable. I know this whole thing started as a transaction, as you fulfilling a promise to my father. But it's become more than that. At least for me. Dante cupped her face in both hands, his green eyes intense in the darkness. Olivia, you stopped being a promise and started being a choice about 2 weeks into knowing you. Everything since then? That's been because I can't imagine my life without you in it. The kiss was different from the desperate, angry one in the warehouse weeks ago. This was tender, searching, a promise of tomorrows they might never see. When they finally pulled apart, Olivia rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady, real, alive. "Promise me something," she whispered. "Promise me that no matter what happens tomorrow, we don't become them. We don't let this war turn us into the kind of people who think violence is the only answer." "I promise," Dante said. "We end this tomorrow, Olivia. And then we start building something better." They stood together on that roof until dawn began to paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "Red sky at morning, sailors take warning." The old saying felt prophetic. The war was about to begin. The final gambit. The Volkov estate sprawled across 15 acres of Hampton coastline, a fortress disguised as luxury. Olivia watched it through binoculars from their position half a mile away, counting guards, noting entry points, reviewing the plan one final time. Around her, their assembled team made final preparations. Marcus checked communication equipment with hands that trembled slightly. Sarah stayed back in the city with Detective Morrison, ready to release all the documentation to every major news outlet the moment they gave the signal. "It's time," Dante said, checking his weapon with practiced efficiency. He caught Olivia's expression. "We're going in prepared, but we're not going in looking for bloodshed. Remember the plan." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. They would infiltrate the gathering, plant recording devices to capture Viktor Volkov and his associates discussing their criminal activities in detail, and get out. Morrison would move in with federal agents the moment they had evidence that would stand up in court. Clean. Legal. Justice rather than revenge. Of course, Olivia had learned enough about war to know that plans rarely survived contact with the enemy. They moved under cover of darkness, using blind spots in the security system that Marcus had identified. Getting onto the estate grounds was easier than expected, which immediately made Olivia nervous. Viktor Volkov wasn't careless. If this was easy, it was because he wanted it to be. They reached the main house and split up according to plan. Dante headed for Victor's private office with two of his associates. Marcus, proving his commitment to redemption, took the riskiest job, walking into the main gathering to plant recording devices while wearing a wire. And Olivia positioned herself in the security room, using her tech skills to loop camera footage and give them cover. For the first 15 minutes, everything went according to plan. Then Olivia heard Dante's voice through her earpiece. "We have a problem. Victor's office is empty. Cleaned out. This whole thing. It's a trap," Olivia finished, ice flooding her veins. The lights came on all at once, flooding the estate with harsh illumination. Armed men appeared from every shadow, and on every screen in the security room, Viktor Volkov's face appeared, his smile cold and terrible. "Good evening, Miss Chun." His voice boomed through speakers. "Thank you for making this so easy. Did you really think I wouldn't anticipate your foolish assault? That I wouldn't prepare for it?" Olivia's mind raced. They'd been played. Despite Marcus's warning, despite all their preparation, Viktor had been 3 steps ahead. She activated her communication link. "Dante, get out. Everyone evacuate now." But Dante's response froze her blood. "I can't. They have Marcus. And they're saying if we run, they'll kill him." The choice. Olivia found herself in the main ballroom 10 minutes later, surrounded by armed men and staring at Viktor Volkov in person for the first time. He was smaller than she'd expected, slighter, but his eyes held the kind of cold certainty that came from years of unchallenged power. Marcus knelt in the center of the room, hands bound, face already bruised. Dante and his team were similarly captured, weapons confiscated. Their entire operation had been demolished in minutes. "Your father stood here once," Viktor said conversationally, circling Olivia like a shark. "In this very room. He tried to negotiate his freedom, tried to convince me that he was more valuable alive than dead. He was wrong. The question is, will you be equally wrong? What do you want?" Olivia kept her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her throat. "Simple. You give me your company. Full control transferred immediately. In exchange, I let everyone in this room walk away alive. Refuse and I start with your new lover. Move to your repentant thief. And save you for last so you can watch them die knowing you could have prevented it. Olivia looked at Dante, saw the subtle shake of his head, don't do it. Looked at Marcus, saw something else in his eyes. Acceptance. Readiness to pay the price for his sins. She thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. The betrayal, the revenge, the slow transformation from naive heiress to someone capable of waging war. She thought about Sarah and baby Grace. About the life waiting to be born into a world poisoned by men like Viktor Volkov. No, Olivia said clearly. Viktor's eyebrows rose. No. You're going to kill us anyway. You can't let us leave with what we know. So my company, my father's legacy, I won't hand it over to make it easier for you. Olivia smiled and there was steel in it. You want it? You'll have to pry it from my dead hands. And even then, I've arranged for automatic transfers that will scatter those assets across 1,000 charities. You'll get nothing. For the first time, Viktor's composure cracked. You're bluffing. Try me. Olivia pulled out her phone, showing him a screen with a countdown timer. I have to input a code every 12 hours, or the transfers activate automatically. I'm about 30 minutes from the deadline. You can torture me for that code, but I promise you'll run out of time before I break. It was partially a bluff, the system existed, but she could override it remotely with enough time. But Viktor didn't need to know that. She just needed him to make a mistake. To get angry enough, desperate enough that he slipped. And he did. Bring the girl, Viktor snarled at one of his men. The pregnant one. Let's see if Miss Chen's resolve holds when we start hurting her accomplice's child. No. Marcus lunged forward, breaking free from his restraints with desperate strength. He tackled the guard heading for the door, buying precious seconds. Those seconds were enough. The ballroom windows exploded inward. Flash grenades detonated, filling the space with smoke and confusion. Through her earpiece, Olivia heard Detective Morrison's voice. Federal agents. Everyone on the ground. The backup plan. While they'd walked into Viktor's trap, Morrison had been moving his own pieces into place. Federal agents he trusted, prosecutors who weren't on the Volkov payroll. Sarah's uncle's documentation had given them enough for warrants, and Olivia's phone call from the security room had been the signal to move in. But in the chaos, Viktor moved too. He grabbed Olivia, a knife appearing at her throat with deadly speed. Call them off or she dies. Dante rose from where he'd been thrown during the initial explosion. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye, but his gaze was clear, focused entirely on Viktor and the knife pressed against Olivia's neck. Let her go, Viktor. It's over. Your organization is being raided as we speak. Every business, every safe house, every account. You've lost. I haven't lost until I'm dead or in custody. And neither of those things will happen today. Viktor dragged Olivia backward toward a hidden door she hadn't noticed. She's coming with me. Insurance until I'm safely out of the country. Viktor continue 11:07. Marcus's voice came from across the room. He was on his feet now, covered in blood. His own and the guards. Take me instead. I'm the one who betrayed you. I'm the one who deserves your punishment. Let her go, take me. Marcus, don't. Olivia started. I have a daughter.